Hello, hello, and welcome back to Roadwarden. I like these little pop-ups we get at the start when you launch the game. For centuries, the Corsairs of the 10 cities have pillaged the southern realms in search of copper, iron and steel. Losing the war has made these resources more scarce than ever. It's good stuff to know. At least, I feel like that's something I should have looked up in the glossary. Last we left off, we were... let's see. We were negotiating in the first village we got to. He was afraid the city was lost to hunger, which after now knowing that the war was lost. Well, we can't change the past. How am I going to help you, Buta? I'm looking for Asterion. She stares you in the eyes, then turns towards Sodal. Is your palfrey a mare? We have 2 jacks. Could use some mules. I don't really know much about horses. How does it work? Stallion? So I've heard. Her eyes wander over the square. That the small donkey bellies bring weak offspring to horses. Her pale fingers reach for her own stomach. When her eyes return to you, they regain their sharpness. I'd rather avoid long talks about that man. Let him remain as a part of the past spring. Since you're asking about him, I can only assume he was indeed sharing his goal with you. I don't know what his goal was. I think he was investing in something. Is that a lie that I know nothing about it? I don't want to lie to her. Yet you're already different from him. I like it when travellers don't try to sell me blue grass. Seeing your frown, she waves it off. It's just a saying. His words were stronger than his deeds, and he's no longer welcome here. Okay. What are his wrongdoings? If you have to know, he failed and won't get a second chance. He's meant to escort a Gidia, a daughter of mine, to her betrothed in Gale Rocks. She was a great archeress, and the road from here to the coast is not that dangerous. When they saw goblins on the road, Asterion ordered her to push through, right into their trap. She touches her deer-shaped buckle. They got jumped like a bunch of wealthy pilgrims. A Roadwarden with their gruel should know better. He can fight with a blade, but my girl, she never had a chance. She sighs and looks at the gate. He disappeared soon after his pitiful attempt at apologizing to me, and we closed our doors behind him, for good. I'll let you know if he ever tries to return. Any ideas where I could look for him? She adjusts her cape with an annoyed shrug. Try asking for him in the north. He spent most of his time between white marshes, Gale Rocks and creeks. Yeah, he wasn't that eager to share his plans. Okay. I wonder, back in Hovlavin, did you spend any time in Backward Corner? It used to be this dark, dirty alley with muggers working even in daylight. I stayed there with Octavia, the miller, in exchange for doing chores for her. She had the small wooden hut. Since the war, even soldiers have avoided the street. People say it's a home for thugs. One of the fanciest inns in the city, the Apple and the Boar. Make you feel like the old days. The Boar Head Inn is almost 50 years old now. I guess I'm just making this up. But I like the sound of that. The Apple and the Boar. You describe how a family of southerners started at a large shipyard right next to the alley, working on exotic boats in unusual shapes. Needing hands to work, they offered food and coins to many local thugs, and, with time, more lightened stalls showed up in the alley. As you describe the new inn, Thasus burst into cheerful laughter. So it's the same family that ran the Boarhead Inn, and to think that I dare to doubt the old lady's endurance. People like her, brave enough to bear the toil of their world, are going to bring salvation to all of us. I was in a ruined village, south from here. Lieutenant's gaze shifts to an awkward click of her tongue as she leans away from you. I don't even want to think about their tragic fate. No one can negotiate with the wrath of the herds. A long pause, and I better not find you upsetting my neighbours with these sad questions. It was a challenging time for all of us, a wound we won't forget. Okay, the weird tree. She straightens up and raises her chin. You mean Beholder, our guardian spirit of our wetlands. Every fall we bring it our gifts, and in return it provides us with blessed fruit, the flesh of the forest. She stares into your eyes. It's older than the oldest books and the oldest thoughts. The druids help us honor its sleep and show us how to ask for its help. Neither of these rituals, she scoffs, would be of use to you. Okay, let's ask about Glacia's band. When you mentioned the raids on the northern villages, her eyes narrow. Are you sure? It's the first I've heard about it. Glacia has been around since years back. She's not much of a nuisance. I'm just a messenger. He's asking for you to join forces with him. Well, I can't give you my answer. I won't ask our hunters to endanger their lives in the pursuit of some gossip. I could ask around, learn more about this. She sighs with an exaggerated relief. What a splendid idea. There are only 3 villages in the north. White Marshes, farther north by the western road, Gale Rocks by the northern coast, and creeks in the far east. Bring me news from those places and you'll get my answer. No, we'll do it for free. Tell me, how do people in the city dress these days? Is it similar to what we have here? Before the war, the merchants were wearing those really long dresses and robes. Way too long for my taste. They got mud stains after every rain, and I see no reason to keep the shoes completely hidden. I'm not sure. I don't pay... No. I'm trying to make myself seem a bit better. Especially look-wise. Just go with people wear tunics. At least we can hope that if the visitors arrive, we won't stand out much. She laughs, but also adjusts her dress, drawing her attention to its superb quality. And who knows, maybe our little village is going to help those unfortunate clothiers. I'm sure we could spare a couple sheets of fabric. Tell me about Howler's Dell. It is what it seems like, the greatest village in the far north. She raises her hand and makes an inviting gesture. Though I hope to still improve this and that, she winks at you, but is suddenly interrupted by the pained cry of a little boy who hurt his knee during a fall. As an amused elder tries to calm him down, the mare shrugs it off and titters, then meets your eyes again. Life's good here. We have what we need and a lot of what we want, building on top of more than 12 generations of hard work and bravery. She spends a few minutes telling you about flons, wheat, rye, hemp, cheese and wool, proud of every glimpse of prosperity. Whenever she mentions an artisan, shepherd or farmer, she doesn't miss a chance to mention how significantly she improved their conditions. She also omits some topics. You hear no tales, songs, ancestors, rituals, or days of prayer. It's like listening to a tax collector. At the very end of her speech, she does mention the wisdom of the elders, now kept in the teachings of the druids, who help her guide those who trust her. They heal our wounds and our gardens, she explains. but then changes the topic to all the fruit trees here's and nuts in the wood. Once she's done with it, I'll nod politely. We talk and talk, but I still don't know where you're from, Buta. What's your story? Have you lived in Hovleven your entire life? Yeah, okay, I'm from the city. I was just about to ask about it. I couldn't imagine someone building a stable and paddock in a place where you can't squeeze in a single new house. Your accent is very city-like, like that of a merchant. What's your secret to being really well off? She reaches for a buckle, and her voice grows cold. There's no secret, traveller. There's hard work, risks, and sacrifices, and the support of those that care about me. The good things that happen to me shine on my people just as much. Think about it before you mention it again. She adjusts her cape. Necromancers. She taps her fingers on the table. Yes, I have. After you ask her to tell you more, she seems to regain her confidence. You mean white marshes, for sure. I don't know all that much about what's happening there. We avoid their lands, if we can. She frowns. I shouldn't gossip about it with strangers. We can talk about it on another occasion. So here's the real question. What would it take for you to consider joining Hovleven? I can consider it right now. While she laughs, her eyes remain keen. But if you want me to give you some answers, let's see. She looks up and to the right, theatrically raising her hand to her chin. Some gestures of goodwill would be a great start. Since you're the guild's messenger, I need to know you can be relied on. She gives you a wide, white grin. And that's only the first step, I assume. Of course. You even have the power to handle tax negotiations? She scoffs loudly at your head shake. Do enough for my village and I'll hand you a beautiful signed letter, a list of all the things my neighbours are looking for, as well as what they can give in return. Your superiors are going to see more than enough to prepare their offer. She rubs her hands. I think that's fair. Looks like we're in agreement. Perfect. One more thing though. She puts her elbows on the table, leaning closer to you. If you go behind my back, I'm not going to wait for a dagger. I'll end you first. She rests her chin against her open palms, giving you a disarmingly warm smile. I'm sure people already know that we have a new Roadwarden. Maybe ask around and see if anyone needs your help. The more my neighbours trust you and need you, the more willing they'll be to offer you better pay. Well, we'll start here. What can I do for you? Oh, so kind of you to ask. But before I ask you to run, let's see how you can walk, shall we? Her eyes wander left and right, and she gestures for a nearby guard to move away. He nods, then gestures at a few other souls to follow him. While a few of the locals cast curious looks at you, they turn away as quickly as you notice them. The mare's shiny green eyes are still locked on you, and her voice is close to a whisper. Since Asterion's disappearance, there's little trade on the roads, and not much news reaches us. He's so kind, her flirtatious tone distracts you from how obviously fake it is, and help me learn some interesting tales about our neighbour. I smile back at her. You mean the ones that weren't supposed to reach you? See, I knew that deep down you're a true sage. She titters and straightens up, adjusting her cape without haste. Do you have something to share? See. Soldiers who came here in the spring were meant to find a spot for a new outpost. She smiles widely. You don't say. Knowing that, I'll prepare a few very tempting suggestions for the officials. After she seals her lips, she lets out a quiet chuckle. They're down to 2 people, though. Since they cleared that camp of brigands, they went so quiet I almost forgot about them. She rubs her chin with her thumb. I'm surprised they've managed to stay alive to this day. Sending such an inexperienced group here shows that the officials misjudged this land. That's all for now. I keep thinking, surely city folk don't eat just wild game, salt fish and groats. What animals do people breed in the nearby villages? Pond fish and fowl. Crickets and rats? No. Mostly ibexes, they do well on the hills? Sure. But just like in the old days, I even saw some of them in the city. They are annoyingly good at climbing onto roofs and walls, but more importantly, she adjusts her dress and smiles. Means that our Mouflon cheese and wool are going to be quite a commodity. Thank you for your time. Alright, okay. This is just the square, okay. Eric's, the innkeeper. Even though the counter stands outdoors, it's not rotten or dirty, and you guess that, like other furniture, is brought inside every night. Eric's approaches you with a smile and leans on its surface with his fists. He's portly and even taller than his neighbours. Got freckles, short grey hair, and an elegant beard. His long, woolen orange tunic has a decorative cut right under the neck, and loose braids at the edges. That's right, he's married to the mayor. How can I help you, traveller? His accent is heavy, nothing like his wife's. He stomps with a heavy boot and looks around, as if he's just waiting to get back to his other tasks. His fingers are still dirty from weeding the garden. I could use a room. Sure thing, he nods. Ma keeps it cleaner than you'll find in the city. Just tell me when you're ready. Any rumors? Rumors? Nay, really. I have my own things to worry about. Neighbours keeping their own company. Better for everyone to seek help from a wife or the forest speakers. No, and a mug of ale. So, no Rubens, but maybe you've heard someone who may need help? You say it as if we expect travellers to get here any day now. I'll ask around. Come tomorrow. Thanks. Alright, the trader. The man behind the counter is inspecting a sack of white flour, mumbling to himself and occasionally cursing. The other locals walk away, giving you space to talk trade in peace. Weevils, he points at a little dark blue insect that's trying to flee. Shit me fire, 'twas ground a few days ago. No pies for us tomorrow, looks like. He puts the sack on the ground. I'll take care of it later. A road warden, eh? Either the mayor cared enough to see you, and kids are lining up to look at your horse. Strangers are like ghosts to them now. He's wearing a simple brown robe with no hood, a rope instead of a belt, and a modest trim made of green thread. Barely reaches below his knees, revealing his sandals and crude pants made of linen. At the same time, it's way too large for him, and hangs from him like a bag. Looks like a poor vendor. He stands sideways to you, with legs crossed, leaning on the counter with one hand and keeping another on his hip. He's around 40, short and a bit greasy, with a humble beard and hair. His fingers are unusually long. Let's see. Friendly, playful. We don't want to intimidate him. No point. No point being vulnerable. It's friendly, I guess. You're a trader, I assume. I guess we'll see each other often. For you, a trader. For my neighbours, the treasurer. Name's Akikios. Everyone brings here what they have in abundance, and I sell it to travellers or divide it among the workers, builders, artisans. These things here are not mine. He runs his eyes over the crates and barrels. But I can show you our wares, if you want. But do not ask me for better prices just because you're a traveller. I need to explain myself for every deal I make, or Thesis will laugh me all the way to the pyre. Okay. Do you have anything for sale that would be of use? Hard to say. What do travellers need? He clears his throat and turns away to have a look at his store. While some of the crates and barrels are empty, they carry an assortment of odds and ends. Tools made of wood and stone, pots, mugs, seeds, vegetables, fabric. It takes him a few minutes to look through the wares. He puts 3 packages on the countertop, and as he unwraps the first one, you recognise what it is by the shape alone. Tell me this is now a beauty, he chuckles and lets you hold the shiny battle axe. Ooh, the haft is long, but the head is light. I know what you're thinking. Your eyes say everything. He praises the weapon loudly, but you barely listen to him. You see your reflection in the unused blade, as sharp as they get. You're not a smith, but you see not a spot of rust. When you take a swing, it hardly takes any effort. The leather straps holding the piece together are just decoration, and the handle is as smooth as glass and perfectly fits into your hand. The man chuckles. You like it, eh? Now I doubt you can afford it, but do not worry. That's not all I have. His long fingers tap against the parchment windows of a lantern. Its frame is cheap, made of oak. 'Tis glued and 'tis quiet, he says while shaking it in the air. Not as fancy as the iron ones with oil, but you can carry it in caves without luring all the corpse eaters and goblins. Perfect for a traveller. Just take a look. Inside the lantern you find a place for a candle. Not a great match for people living in wooden houses. Iron and glue are easy to make, but I'll not ask for more than 4 rings. The last sack is as wide as a saddle and 3 hands tall. It contains a whole bunch of undyed linen sheets. We usually keep them for traders, but we could use a few dragon rings, and who knows if there's ever going to be a next caravan. He gives you a long look. Interested? Depends on what you want for it. Okay, so it's 15 for that nice axe. I don't need a lantern quite yet. I feel like I could trade that fabric elsewhere later. But we'll come back, we'll keep all of this in mind. What can you tell me about Asterion? That even though he was here more than once, he did not leave much behind. Smelly hoarder. He looks around, then spits on the ground. At least he brought a blade from me. Do you remember what blade it was? Sure, 'twas a special one, a sickle sword with a tip wider than 'twas at the grip, long as the fingertips to shoulder. Nay a sword, nay a knife, single edge, brought his own steel to melt for it. What's it good for? Fencing? More for cutting bushes, creepers, roots. It will not fell a tree, but 'tis a fine tool. He nods to a passerby, but his smile disappears as quickly as it's shown up. Pathfinders use it. My pa used to have one as well. He chopped nuts with it. Nuts and mouflons. So he took it to the wilderness. He shrugs. Pretty much anywhere. There are hills from here to the coast and bogs in the north, and the heart of the woods. Cannot help you with it. Do you need help with anything? Know what? There's something urgent. I need a medicament for my daughter. Not that she's hurt or anything. He raises his open palms as if to show he's not holding a knife. She's a teen, wants to start hunting in the woods. I cannot teach her much, but I'd sleep better with her having a healing potion. You have, he hesitates, almost 9 days. Bring me the potion before the last dusk and I'll pay you 5 dragon rings. Where can I find such a potion? I can think of 2 places. The safer bet is beyond Old Pagos, on the mountain of the crazy monks. Crazy and boring, more boring than a mouflon. They brew that with Panuma. Also head south, east of the crossroads, behind Pell to the north. I've not been there by myself, but you'll find a dolmen there. A city is as old as the city. In this, he reaches in for a clinking pouch and pulls out a mass of iron keys, meant to open some secret passage there. How do you know about that secret? From a merchant. She's from south of Hag Hills. Meant to pass the key to her friend, but he never showed up. And you've just been keeping the key at your side ever since? I kept it with my trinkets and coins, that's all. We were planning to go there for years, but it's one of those things you talk about, and they do it. His brief laughter turns into a cough. Strong elixir would be worth more than 5 coins. Well now, 'tis all I can pay, he spreads his arm. I do not sculpt, you stupid. The dragons I get here belong to the village. 5 is fair pay, and I'll mention it to all the neighbours how helpful you are. He takes a deep breath and adjusts his robes, still sweating. Fine, I'll do it. Alright, nothing for now. Let's see, so we have a tailor and some priests. Follow the guard's directions and reach the whitewashed building standing on the western bank, next to a small garden of flowers and herbs. It's well kept and clean, with a plain beaten front yard and parts covered with sand. Through the open windows you catch a glance of the furniture made of smooth, almost shiny wood with hints of dark cherry-like red, decorated with carvings of plants. A woman in her 40s is sitting on a wooden bench. The table is covered with fabrics, threads and needles made of bone and iron. She's sewing a long sleeve to what's going to become a blue tunic. Her movements are quick and confident. Her brown wavy shoulder length is tied into a wreath-like braid. But other than that, her clothes are simple and inconspicuous. She doesn't have much. She doesn't have a left leg, but you don't notice any cane. You observe her for a few moments until, without sparing you so much as a glance, she encourages you to speak with a grunt. Looking for a tailor. You found one. Her voice is low, and she doesn't stop. Her work. Name's Bion. Could you answer a few questions? The boredom in her voice is palpable. I'm Naabard. Okay, interested in a new set? She stops her work and looks at you briefly. Aye, I can tell. You don't even hear a mint of mockery. But there's a lot of work, and I do not take my work lightly. If I were to give you anything, people would see it, and I'll not let them show you rags. And by that you mean your prices are high. You reach for a pouch, and she answers with a nod. It will take me a day or so to finish, and a fine fabric. Your city clothes are... She frowns. Just fine for the wilderness, I guess. But what I'll give you is for the time with lamb meat and mead. Nay, pathfinding. The longer the outfit you want, the higher the price, though I'll consider the things people say about you as well. Let's discuss it. Ooh, that is fancy stuff. Alright, good luck. Priests. You head south of the dead tree in the main square. Before you get to the second thatch building, a large man stands up from the bench and gets into your way. He's close to 50, taller than most people you've seen in your life. Broad-shouldered, his hair and short beard are brown, matching his elegant woolen robe. A thick club is attached to its his right wrist with a leather strap. He left his sandals sitting in his spot. Many want to speak with our guides and teachers. He speaks with a solemn, strong voice. But you're not welcome here. Turn back, stranger. I'm your new road warden. Are you sure there's no soul here that needs my assistance? His harsh look softens. We can handle ourselves. If that changes, Elpis will summon you. And so be it. Okay. Go to the main square. Innkeeper. Any interesting guests? I do not know. He scratches his beard. There was one vagabond, but he was not here for long, and did not do much. Timid fellow, talks loudly, but is afraid of everything, especially the guards. His face is touched by flames. As a big ballista, he says this word with a strange accent, smirking. And a large bird is his beast of burden. I do not know what to say, he shrugs. He went south and is most likely gone. Thanks. I can't rest yet, I guess, so... Let's see. Journal. The Creeks is in the far north. Gale Rocks is northern shore. I think it's the monastery in the west to the watchtower in the east. Okay, that's fine. Old Pagos is to the west. Okay, so we can head west then. The path gets greener and meanders between treacherous precipices. You ride slowly, passing by birds and ibexes, but in the distance you spot circling harpies, and below you, a roaming mountain cat pursuing a mouflon. You take a sip from your water skin. The air here is a bit dry. Let's hope the echo of the hooves won't reach any larger beasts. The path leads you down again to the small moist valley, impenetrable for a rider. The thicket is made of thorny shrubs, tall grasses, and the weak fallen burrows that nourish mosses and mushrooms. You examine the remnants of the path, covered with greenish puddles. Without the roots and with a fresh layer of pebbles, it may be restored. You look behind you. The road is clear, no ambushes so far, but if you hope to clear this place, it'd be better to do it soon, or only get denser with the passage of days. Could be done in 2 hours or so. Ooh. Getting late, better look for a safe place to sleep. Your muscles not used to such tiring work grow tired quickly, so you take a few short breaks, avoiding the thorns and dirty water. When it comes to pushing aside the burrows, you breathe heavily, but you need only enough space to let your palfrey get through. Maybe the animals will start to roam this place again, beating the path. You reach a convenient mountain pass, with crags smoothed out by centuries of rain and wind. The sun warms both the vegetation and the beaten rock, and only the beasts you spot are loud rooks glancing at you from the rocks and branches. Clearing the rock slide would take hours of work and a large group of people, while forcing Sodal to climb up and down could break its legs. Dismount and look around. You climb up the rocks, having plenty of spots to rest your hands. Most of them won't even move an inch. As you get closer to the small dead tree, you notice something odd among the stones. Pieces of old fabric, completely covered with mould. Most likely the remains of a tunic. Okay, well, we can head back then. Ride through the open gate and then swiftly dismount. Get to the state. You spend a few minutes with Sodal, but before you reach the square, someone clears their throat. You turn towards a man in his 50s with large hands, an elegant beard, and no hair. The stable master, he boasts, introduces himself and answers an unspoken question. You frown, then realize you indeed saw him before, and your palfrey was nicely taken care of during your first visit to the village. Or rather, I'm one when it is necessary. But I'd rather grind flour, he says with annoyance. You dare not think your beast waters itself, brings itself fodder from a storehouse, and cleans its own shit, nay? Takes time and hay. If 'tis, he points at your companion, is nae going to work for it, you better have a pouch in hand. You look behind you. The stables are not much more than an open shed with piles of planks, 2 donkeys and a bunch of nabbing chickens. A dragon bone been enough? He nods. For one day. Aye, that's fair. He looks around, rubbing his hand. Here you go. He nods with gratitude and throws the bone into a leaky bucket hanging from a nail, then grabs a wooden pitchfork. Let him work. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let's rent a room. I feel like we're going to just kind of go quite far north tomorrow. Your first sleep ends, but your usual 1-hour break is instantly disrupted by noise. You stand up, walk to the window and see the reason for the commotion. A group of workers is just outside the inn, drinking and laughing. Garrix, the innkeeper, is also among them. You could join them, but if you do so, you won't get a good sleep tonight, and after such a long day you may end up exhausted. Okay. No, I need a break. I need to rest. During your time in Hovlavin, you learned how to ignore drunken crowds. You can relax and return to your routine. Sharpen the blade and go back to sleep. You spend the night in peace, in a clean bed, with a tightly shut window and a warm blanket. In the morning you find a stool placed by your bed, covered with a pie with hare and cabbage, a bowl of plums and grapes, and a cup of Morflin milk. Once you get dressed and go downstairs, a young boy, who's covered in mud, speaks unusually loud and enthusiastically. Mentions that Sodal has already been brushed and watered. You nod, but he runs outside without noticing it. The innkeeper is sitting near the door, from time to time carrying out another bowl with either stew or gruel. Thasus is nowhere to be seen. Leave the square. We're done here. Wandering around the village on the islet of the centre of the village is an old woman telling a group of children a story about the lethal shouts of howlers. 2 red-haired twins are weeding a flower garden. No, don't travel. The road is beaten and free of litter. You notice paths between the fruit-bearing trees on your right, and soon after that you ride alongside vast fields of broad beans, almost ready for the second harvest of the summer. Then there are green hemp plants, taller than you are, waiting for scythe or sickle. The locals keep the beasts at a distance, at least. Sodal's hooves thump loudly on the beaten track. The green bushes, shrubs and trees prove that the soil here is fertile, yet the plants don't overgrow the road. These crossroads must be busy at times, maybe even patrolled. In the distant west, you see the mountain peaks dividing the lowlands from the ocean. The road east leads towards the hills, behind which there are unusually tall dark trees. There's a dense forest in the north, from which you hear the croaking of toads. The last path is already known to you. You're surrounded by 4 signposts, all of which seem to be made from the same type of wood, now covered in moss and fungi, yet the pictures and letters that cover the nail boards are nothing alike. Right, western signpost. Has 2 planks attached to a single post, both of them nailed with rusty steel. The lower sign is divided in 2 halves. The left edge is engraved with 4 simple shapes, squares with roof-like lines hanging above them. The other edge bears 2 engraved piles, one of them made of horizontal rectangles, the other of inexact circles. You don't recognize the letters between the 2 piles. The upper plank is covered with 2 short words drawn in white paint, and right below them an engraved vertical rectangle with an hourglass inside. Eastern one. The long plank attached with rusted iron nails is almost empty, bears no words, only a single picture, painted with great care. It trays a city-like gate with a watchtower to its left and right, and a couple small conifers growing beside and partially behind the towers. Northern one. It's attached with nails made of pointy carved bones, divided into 3 sections covered with small engravings. The part on the left has 3 large squares with roof lines hanging above them, no other pictures or words. The one in the middle has only 1 square, but also a simple horizontal symbol of a fish and a short word beneath it, which you don't recognize. The image on the right has 2 roofed squares, but also 2 other images which you recognize easily, a deer and a standing barrel. And the southern one, covered with lines. Each square has a large letter inside, you don't recognize them. The thicket doesn't help. You notice the remnants of berries and pears, but most of them are already rotting. Spread close to the wooden stools at the side of the road, the nearby creek is not impressively deep, but the beaver dam, for some reason taller than you are, makes it wide and waters the surrounding soil. A few steps away from the southern signpost, you find something sticking out of a shrub. It's a moist plank covered by fungi. You try to move it with a stick and a gloved hand. After a minute or so, you confirm it's an abandoned sign, covered with green letters and colourful pictures of flowers and trees. Try to find where the old sign used to be attached. The southern post is the only one with any holes left by nails. Which is this way down here. Okay. Well, I want to head. That should take me through over the hills where the bandits are supposed to be. So we'll head directly north. Some parts of the road lead uphill, some downhill. The forests are lush but not too dark. The few foraging deer and boars keep their distance, and the birds are disinterested in your presence, singing cheerfully and preening their feathers. Sounds of an ongoing hunt reach you from the east, but none of the nearby creatures seem bothered. Once you get farther north, the colourful meadow reveals tall hills on the other side of the stream, but the road leads through a valley. There's a gentle plume of smoke coming from one of the mountains in the west. Doesn't look like a place is on fire. Maybe there's a settlement in the mountains. The road leads to a gentle creek, filled with the buzzing of flies, mosquitoes, and gnats. You don't spot any critters among the tall meadows, tree branches, or rocky slopes. Seeing the shapeless, dark vortex of wings, sodal snorts. You're currently on the southern bank. Go through with a blazing torch and see if we can't, I don't know, get them away with the smoke or something. Move away from the creek, get on your feet and unpack the tinderbox, the wooden stave and the set of rags, as well as the oil. After you assemble a torch, you sit down on the ground, preparing the flint and linen char cloth. Decades ago, before the southern invasion, people used fire strikers made of thick steel, but all you have is a cube-like piece of harsh pyrite. It's not ideal, but it's good enough for a couple of sparks. Holding the fire, you get back in the saddle. You swing your weapon left and right. There isn't as much smoke as you expected. Put it to the test. That's 1 health now. Once you get closer to the ford, countless creatures beset you, filling your eyes, mouth and nose, hitting you like a squishy buzzing hail. You ride forward blindly, instantly forgetting about your preparations, trying to get out of there as fast as you can, but the insects are sticking with you much longer than the smoke. It takes a few minutes for you to escape. The red marks on your skin start to burn. You get down to put the torch out by rubbing it against the beaten track. Sodal swishes its tail angrily as it gives you a reproachful look, pinning its ears back to its head. Unless you find an easier way to protect yourself, the insects will keep slowing you down. Okay. For most of the time you're surrounded by yellow meadows. The trees on your left get sparser, while the few lonely birches on your right still bear the signs of tapping, marked with knife cuts, tied with cords. Some of them still carry wooden vessels, as if they were simply abandoned, maybe last spring, maybe before that. Few of the trees are already dried out, and the winds managed to knock them down. As you get closer to the crossroad, the ground gets muddy. The beaten path avoids the wetlands as much as it can. The screeches and hisses mix with the buzzing of insects, and as you reach a small pond, there are signs of blood on its bank. The air is moist and heavy, and has a hint of rotting meat to it. It may still be early, but it's better to avoid bogs when night time approaches. Such places really have fine roads. Bogs are darker than forests. Local creatures start their hunt up to an hour earlier. Okay. Basically don't go in there. The trees and bushes are sparse here, growing from the barren grassland. Some of them bear late summer fruits. Oh, I hate this bug. I hate this bug sound effect. A group of wayfarers is spread around the broken signpost and the abandoned cart. They're skinny but healthy, and are standing upright. They're wearing humble, dim gambesons on top of their hemp tunics and pants, all of them worn, in some cases undyed. All others are dark green or brown. 4 of these individuals wear cloaks and are armed with spears, bows, and stone maces. On their necks, wrists, and belt, you spot small talismans. Fangs, bones, wooden beads, leather strips. There's also a 5th figure, standing a bit in the back, with lowered shoulders. Unlike the others, they're hooded, and in such a manner that you doubt they can see anything other than their boots. Their clothes are shabby, torn, but your eyes mostly run to their club. A bow as long as its owner is tall and as thick as a leg. Resting with one end on the ground, you get closer, and the person raises the weapon with just one arm. But another traveller gestures for them to stop, and they do so right away, freezing in place. Stay in the saddle, just in case. The man behind the gesture doesn't approach you, just nods. Safe travel, stranger. It may be early, but bogs aren't safe. Better keep moving, you'll find an inn. You try to digest his thick accent, his broad-shouldered with a large belly, but the scars on his face sculpt an image of someone who's earned their share of food with many skirmishes. He doesn't reach for his weapon, and pushes one of his companions close to the cart. She kneels by an empty box and looks inside it. The man observes you with little curiosity. Greetings, nice place for a camp. It is a bit smelly. Kinda just want to go with greetings, but we're trying to be helpful to get our own way here. Need any help? He makes an annoyed grimace. Not really. These timbers sickening, mouldy and wet. We're checking on the place, but it seems 'tis a bad year for it. He looks at his companions, who simply shrug and spread to take a look at the cart. All but the one with the burrow. who doesn't move an inch. I cannot say I have time to loaf. You have questions? Ask. Barbie, quit. Don't put us to sleep. You're from around here? Very much so, and you're new to these roads. You know our home? No clue. White marshes, 'tis there. He looks at the crossroads leading east. An old place, plenty for stories there, but they rarely reach the ears of strangers, especially these days. How can I reach White Marshes? Not so hard if you have bones or food with you. Ride down the road, turn left, and take a gift to Thrysis, the warden of our peat fields. He'll open the creepers for you. Seeing you look, he carries on. They're on the right path. One will take you to the village. Anything dangerous between here and there? Water hides Sarians. Don't let your horse drink. Just stay on the road all the time. One of the women chips in. And don't follow voices or lights. Weird beasts lure humans to death. And don't touch the creepers. This your cart? In a way, my neighbour's. You then hear one of the women proudly claiming that it belongs to her uncle. But the man doesn't allow you to dig deeper into this topic. We used to carry wood and plants from here to the village, but eventually there was not a thing to carry, and 'twas left for another day. 'Tis but trash now. Are you going to leave it here, as is? He raises his eyebrows, then scoffs. Of course, the termites and mushrooms, then we'll eat them when we get hungry. Nothing goes to waste. He then stretches out and gets closer to the signpost, using his spear as a walking stick. Well, stay safe, stranger. He raises his voice and addresses his companions. We wasted too much time. 'Tis froth, time to get back. The others prepare their own weapons and join their guide. The one with the Barasanes stays silent until a gentle gesture commands them to follow. They keep up with the rest of the group, dragging the club behind themselves with remarkable strength. After a few more days, there may be fruits and other stuff to pick here. Okay. Time to keep travelling on. This way then? You're not used to the scents of bogs, but you weren't expecting them to be so gentle. The humid air makes you think of smoked meat, and even though you ride by a few rotting carcasses and animal droppings, just as often as you cross tiny meadows of pink, yellow and red flowers. The noises tell stories of never-ending wars between the swarms of insects, frogs in their hideouts, snake lurking among the purple grasses, birds patrolling both the water and the sky, and the saurians prepared to strike from beneath the surface. You can't separate the sounds of the living from those of the dying, if they're even different at all. You reach a boulder in the middle of the road, on the edge of a large pond. The road splits from here in two directions, but only the smoke you see is to the southeast. Southeast? We'll head south. The leafless plants resemble tree roots and other creepers. Even though they're dark green and sway from side to side slightly, Sodal stops without command, unwilling to approach the nightmarish gate. No other path in sight. Throw them at the creepers. You step among the mud and grasses, but some desperate creature scraped this land clean of any wood they could eat. It takes you a few moments before you find any that doesn't fall apart under your touch. Once it hits the creepers, they bend backwards swiftly, then try to reach you with a loud swish, getting a bit longer as they repeat this attempt a few times. You tell your mount to step away, but the plants don't chase after you. Examine the water, there should be saurians in there. The dirty ponds are hard to see through. It takes a few minutes before you find a stick long enough to poke its water and reach the bottom. Even at the very bank, the water is as deep as your palfrey is tall. It's quite possible that none of these conveniently spread past but appeared here on their own. Could it be that the locals carried much of the soil by themselves, hidden in the deeper bogs with the other parts of the peninsula? Before you have time to dwell on it, you jump back, dodging a strike of a green saurian. You run away so quickly that it gives up pursuit. Okay, well, we can't go any further that way then. Ooh. The road takes you to the edge of the woods. A few trees have found lucky scraps of soil towering above the water, while others, shorter and not as lush, have roots sunk into the pond. Some of the plants were felled with tools, so the route itself isn't so dark, while the few sunbeams getting through the weaker branches on your left are surrounded by darkness and swarms of insects. "Help me, help!" The sudden cry, as well as screams of pain, reaches you from between the trees. A woman or child. It may be a trap. Even if it's not, I cannot help them. Try to spot someone. Among the green and red leaves you don't see any unusual colours, come to think of it, but there's a few creatures in sight, other than the flies and the mosquitoes. Dark-winged birds are quiet. Sparse toads let out sporadic, tense croaks. No, it's a trap. Sodal seems to agree with your decision. It enters a trot, leading you farther east. A minute passes, but you still hear the constant shouts, as if someone's getting whipped to the very bones. Just have to ignore it. Fortunately, we were already told that they were a trap. Ride along shallow waters on one side and flooded trees on the other. You reach what seems like the end of the road. The turn south was already overgrown, most likely abandoned after it was devoured by the bog. But as you look north, you see a wide clearing that, with time, has become a meadow, and a lonely hut at the end of the often travelled path. At first you ride down slightly, following the twisted trail. There's plenty of puddles around, as well as brown, grey and purple grasses, but all of them are too short for any lurking predators, and the few foxes you see far away don't pay you any attention. You pass by the fresh tracks of heavy hooved beasts, but spot no wild game in sight. Your ears can't free themselves from the birds, rodent and dragonflies. Ride carefully, Sodal's leg sinks into the mud and may get broken. The farther north you ride, the shorter the grass gets. These vast peat fields, broader than 2 or 3 villages, pace side by side, are many years old. Turf bricks surrounding the solitary hut are still fresh, drying in the late summer light. The scent of this area is like that of no bog you've ever encountered. Instead of a sublime aroma of healthy soil, it's intense, sulphury, leaving an almost sour taste on your tongue. The short scarp is dripping with water, like running sore of the earth, carved with spade and muscle. The house, made of birchwood, dried turf, and a blanket of soil, is a structure you're not too familiar with, but you imagine its interiors are much smaller than what they appear to be. The walls are a few feet thick to keep in the warmth, and such roofs tend to get soggy until they collapse after a decade or so. The only soul in sight is sitting on the bench, stuffing his mouth with fistfuls of green leaves that he takes out of a small basket placed on his knees. I introduce myself and, for now, stay in saddle. Still chewing, he mutters something in response, then shakes his head. His hairy head swallows and puts the basket away. He stands up and takes a single step forward, approaching the edge of the scarp. His arms are entangled by green creepers longer than he is tall. They rub against the ground after each step, and judging by the way they occasionally twitch, they're very much alive, even though you can't see where they originate from. "Buta, the Roadwarden," he repeats. This time clearly, he moves his sealed lips left and right, as if tasting your name, still not sure if he should swallow it or spit it out. "Your face is familiar, but not this." He points at your mount, staring at it for a good minute. His voice is quiet and young, not older than 30. If you were standing next to each other, he would almost be a head shorter than you, but for now he towers over you. He has sunken cheeks and sloped shoulders, and while his grey woolen robe was never pretty, it's now close to being a rag, and his sandals reveal long toenails. I observe him more closely. His eyes are as brown and dark as the grasses of this very bog. His left earring is made of tusk and a feather, while the right one is an hourglass made of silver, though a broken wing makes it at all times tilted under its own weight. The leather strips on his wrists and ankles hold beads, pieces of amber, old game dice, and tiny skulls of birds and critters. Even more cords are hanging from his neck, some of them so long they reach his stomach. They carry countless amulets, some of them torn, dried, shabby, or fragmented, and you spot among them small boxes made of wood and bone, as well as leather pouches which hide even more secrets. Were you here before? Mayhap I dreamt you in my sleep. His voice and look are absent. If so, I am Thyrus, the turf warden. Okay, Thyrus. Humans. Okay. I don't think he would particularly care about being friendly, so we'll just go with hide your emotions. Dreamt? He observes you keenly, letting out an approving grunt. No, it isn't your shell I saw, but your wondering eyes. Hands used to touch beasts more than humans. Arse burning from saddle and cold sweat for nights. 'Twas a man before you here, Asterion, and was as lost as you are. Lost. Makes a dramatic pause and smiles. But not unwelcome. I need to readjust. Some plants are blocking the way to white marshes, about the road south from here. With a horse and no guide, he would get swallowed in no time by monsters in the mud. He raises his hands, waggling his fingers, as if he's casting a curse. My green pets keep the troublemakers away, but I can make an exception for a warden, one willing to prove they bring gifts, not troubles. What's the toll? He reaches for his basket and places it on the lower edge of the scarp, crouching right behind it. You look inside. Indeed, it's filled with wild leaves, flowers, and berries. Give me enough for a day or so, and I'll bend the vines for a day or so. Food ration be fine? Very fine. He licks his lips. Should have... yeah, I still have 3, so that's fine. And once he spots a piece of jerky among your gifts, he reaches for it right away. With a mouthful, he snaps his fingers and mutters something with satisfaction. Do you live here by yourself? Yep, warlocking, peddling, guarding turf. My tribe dug out what they can this summer. I just keep dragons away from squashing the bricks. Your eyes turn west, following the man's raised finger, and you indeed notice a distant trail of massive 3-fingered footprints, now turned into small puddles. They're as long as your torso, with pointy claws, one of which appears to be broken at its tip. Do you have anything to sell, Warlock? He eagerly smiles and steps away, reaching to the doorknob with his right creepers. Odds and ends. Want to buy a hook? Adventurers love those, and I've got it for cheap. He doesn't give you time to respond. On most days I brew and mix stuff for poisons and medicine, if one's desperate enough to cross the bogs for it. I have one that withers plants, and one that kills worms and bugs, and one that keeps flies away for better health. Okay. Poisonous yellow dust that withers plants. Jar with ointment to keep insects away. A jar with bug killing ointment. And a bone hook. I guess sting ointment. I'm really low on money. I don't have a lot here. We want an ointment or a repellent. I guess a repellent if we're going to go back through. There we go. Oak repellent. Well, how do you avoid the giant beast? Oh, wild beast. It is them who avoid this place. They're afraid of the spears, my plants, and poisons. Seeing your frown, he raises his creepers quickly, waving them like a dancer would scarves. Yet his arms remain still. They're stronger than muscles, he simply explains. But still, I'm not much for a wanderer. Is Pete really worth constant overseeing? He looks at the nearby bricks and frowns, as if he's seeing them for the first time. Sure, kind of, I think. You ask him to tell you about them, but he admits it's the others who harvest it. I meant to pile it up into rickles. He points at small dolman-shaped structure. But I'm always so busy, he grins. You ask him what turf is good for, and he starts to tap his toes. You can build with it, you can burn it, add it to the soil, and it's great for smoking meat. We used to dig it slowly and barter for stone and timber, but we changed our ways. Do you know anything about Asterion? He raises his chin. Know what? I may. His amulets rattle after his triumphant announcement, but then he looks at the clouds in the distance. Wait for him to carry on to no avail. I wait patiently. He nods to himself. Didn't notice it's been so long. Fall's almost here. What do you think of him? He stands with an open mouth, as if not sure what you mean by that. I don't. Left me with a heavier pouch, but asked nosy questions, like someone else I know. He gives a telling look. Do you know where he is? Well, not at my place, 'tis for sure. To prove his point, he raises one of his creepers and opens the door. Though from where you're sitting, you mostly see cold fireplace and the darkness behind it. But you do have an idea of where I can look for him. Yep, at a monster's lair most likely. You meet his eyes. Any monster in particular? He looks away and reaches for one of his bracelets. He asked me for help with Minnie. Was heading for a journey, he said. Needed bogey bombs to scare animals away. You push him a bit, but he doesn't have to think long, as if these questions we've been bothering him for the entire season. Weirdest ones were for the harpies, and he wanted ones for sea monsters, but I've no such things. I cannot poison the sea. As you think of what to make of it all, he starts to tap his toes, taking a deep breath. There's a huntress living in Pelt of the North, this inn at the Southern Road. Delit. Asterion said she knows a wild beast like no other soul, so he was prepared for them anyway. That's all. Found a scrap of land that I think may be cursed, though I'm not sure how to examine it. Ah, you're saying the rest of the north isn't cursed, he lets out a chuckle. But seeing how you still wait for his advice, he raises one of his creepers and, looking in the distance, scratches it. I've no cure for that, but ask Eudocia, the witch from the other side of the woods far east. Mayhaps she has a wand or something. Okay. Okay, what time are we at? I feel like I want to head back and then check the fish trap. Oh, Oh, that's what the symbols are. I see. Trader. Okay. Ooh. I'm going to be back in just a moment. Right, I'm back. And I'm not muted. This is very good. Alright, no, I was thinking about it. We need to head down through the creepers while we've got them open, since we just paid for it. The road twists between the flooded purplish grasses. The field ahead of you is still green, bearing the second... lost my place. Bearing the second sowing of broad beans, maybe the third, if the land allows it. The workers ignore you. Some of them are nothing but bones. Some carry scraps of flesh, wearing them like forgotten rags, and others almost look human, as if they were awoken right after death. Most of the witless shells move around piles of soil, carry wooden logs, or dig in the ground with their bare hands, but there are also those with considerable abilities. They use pitchforks, hoes, and splitting axes, and confidently cross the uneven ground. There's only a few breathing souls in sight. They observe your passing, but keep their distance. They aren't attacking me, so I don't need to be afraid. People who live here seem to have everything under control. The guards let you in without questioning. The entrance and the wall in general were recently constructed, though still not finished. There will soon be yet another gate, allowing for trade and conversation without opening the village to danger. Just like in the fields, the work is divided between the undead, who carry bricks and take care of most of the thankless tasks, while the locals cut rock and spread mortar. The difficult past is still carved in the villagers' gaunt faces and crude outfits, and their brief glances show little curiosity. A few of them are sharing a meal right next to the wall, and the victuals in the basket consist of green leaves, fruit, eggs, and cuts of roasted meat, the food of foragers. You're told to wait here for the mayor. Don't roam on your own, the guard voice is harsh, despite the stutter. I tether Sodal to a small shed. The man shows up soon after, with a careless saunter, and he hardly spares you a look, instead staring at your palfrey. The stranger from the forest garden. Can I guess why why you would come here. Who are you even? His stature would be considered average in most villages. Excuse me. Stature would be considered average in most villages, but in comparison to the rest of his tribe, he's portly, muscular, tall, and with a large square face. His hands are resting on the shaft of a poleaxe placed across his shoulders, making him seem even larger. His long straw-covered beard is shabby and makes his bald head look shiny. You can't really tell how old he is, though you see no wrinkles. Just like the others, he's wearing prominent charms, favouring tiny figurines of animals made of bone and wood. Only one of them is hanging from his neck, a silver amulet portraying the head of a moose with large antlers. While valuable, it looks older than the other critters, and quite crude in form. I introduce myself. He sizes you up, and I'm Helvius. Who let you in? Was it Thyrus? Is as much a gatekeeper as a fly's a warden to a piece of shit. He smiles. He gives you a telling frown. He doesn't seem the playful type, and he doesn't seem the friendly type. Distance. You realise they may be of use here. Don't boast. Those like you help others when your pouch gets empty. With no need of you here. He starts to twist his wrist, spinning his weapon slowly. Take a good look around while you can. White marshes isn't for strangers. The turf houses are old, covered with lush grasses and flowers, and you can't imagine any family fitting inside such a small one-chambered huts. The alleys are so narrow that only one cart could squeeze through them all at once. Your boots have sunk into the mud. The square is covered with deep boot prints, the noise of hammers, shouting, wood splitting, and the shuffling of undead legs pierces through the constant buzzing of insects. Sodal snorts hunting down flies with its tails. I notice there's only one elder in sight, and he's observing me. He's standing on top of a wooden platform by a building that's unlike any other in the village. His eyes are keen, the left one is dark and the right one is grey, bright. His head and face is shaved, and his simple undyed robe is even worse shaped than the outfit of his tribesfolk. Once Helvius realizes what you're looking at, he lowers his weapon and clears his throat, like a boy caught red-handed. The elder walks away, holding a walking stick with one hand and touching a wall with the other. Arentius, says the mayor, the priest of our fellowship and the one who saved our people. He raises his hand, pointing at the dead shells bustling around the construction site. Let's see. The undead workers, they don't bother you? I used to listen to stories about them as a kid. He nods for you to follow him. Laurentius taught me they're no different than boars in fire. He dashes forward and swings his poleaxe, bashing a skeleton's shoulder. The arm sinks into the mud, while its owner, a bit awkwardly now, keeps trying to climb up a ladder. Helvius bursts into laughter, and the locals look away without a word. See, he continues, leading you back to, well, all you need's control. Look here. He points at the dead shell with remnants of flesh on its chest and head. There's a white and brown sparrow sitting on its shoulder. Could be shitting. Preening its feathers. Even beasts know they've got not a thing to worry about. The awoken are now like they were yesterday, like they were in the spring, like they were a year ago. Leave worrying about them to idiots and you knights. Were you recently bothered by any highwaymen? He reaches for his hair so quickly that it makes you flinch, but then scratches his head gently. And if so, we'll deal with them on our own, without some warden's help. According to what an old druid told me, the highwaymen bother you so much more severely than you lead me to believe. So you're bothering other people with these questions as well. he scowls at you, but carries on. Glassy is angry with us, took our food and tools, beat our foragers, broke our traps. But we don't need a stranger's guidance. Is the Asterion around? Huh? Why would he be? You pay attention to his confident stance and voice, strong voice, with its usual hint of disdain, and spot no sign of a lie. He's hardly ever been here, no need of wardens. You say you know nothing about Asterion, but people claim he had strong ties with your tribe. Elvius begins swinging his axe left and right, the heel of the half now resting in the mud. Trying to recall the past, he makes a puzzled frown. Know what? I was told he met with our warlock often. Who knows why? Ask him if you must. Okay. Like to learn more about White Marshes. Don't bother. Both us and yourself. Tribe's been taming the bogs for 5 generations, but the fields, he moves towards the gate as this, if you had no opportunity to see them before, are from a few seasons ago. Thanks to Arentius, we used to live on berries and meat, selling peat and timber, but soon we'll need no outsiders. After all these years of feeding our blood to Saurians, leeches and merchants, better days are coming. We made them come, and we deserve them. He fondly wipes the blade with his thumb, then clears his throat, if the white allows. So you want to separate yourself from other settlements? The tribes with little iron and bone struggle more and more. We're getting ready to welcome plunderers the way they deserve. Tizzle, our palisade wasn't enough, all this. He waves at the wall, and his voice full of pride. Was not built even 2 years, can you believe? You glance at a yellowish skeleton that carries 2 large rocks, each too large for any human to lift on their own. Shall we trade? We have what we need, but I'll take a look at what you're bringing if you seek bones. He glances at an undead. He points his blade at the only thing that interests him. Corals. No, not this time. He sighs loudly, giving you a telling look. Speak to Arentius. As he straightens up, the moose head on his chest bounces enthusiastically. You and many others, but he's swamped by his work, and we have enough threats in the shadows already. If he decides you're trustworthy, he may speak with you once, but why would I even ask him? I need his guidance. Then seek fortune tellers and scholars, he scoffs. We have our own struggles to solve before we start leading outsiders. Okay. You hear a weak moan coming from one of the houses. Approach the well. The locals observe your hands carefully while you're drawing the water. After you quench your thirst, you try to wash your face and neck, but one of the older women approaches you quickly, waggling her finger. We're not enough for this silliness, she rebukes you. Water your horse if you have to, but we need the rest to ourselves. The stern gaze of the other villagers leaves no room for discussion. Observe the undead workers. Not being allowed to leave the main square, you observe the shells walking through the gate or helping the builders at the wall. Skeletons are not all complete, some of them lack a rib, a foot or a jaw. Many of their bones were cracked or broken, and seem to be connected to each other with nothing at all, as if the pneuma that keeps them moving knows which parts should stay firm and which ones should twist or bend. Those that kept some of their skin and guts don't smell, rot or bleed, make you think of dried meat. It's as if these scraps of flesh serve no purpose, and seeing how many of these labourers already have great holes in their stomach or limbs with revealed bones, could be that they're just in the middle of the process of becoming like their naked counterparts. The undead loyally fulfill their tasks. So far you've counted 5 people able to give them orders. Some of them do so by speaking aloud, while one woman simply looks at a shell, no matter how far it is. The workers, while witless, maintain some sort of carefulness in their actions. They stop when someone gets in their way and use tools if they know how, avoiding pointless harm to their shells. There may be more than 50 creatures spread across and around the village, but you can't know how many you haven't seen. Many of the fresher undead are elders. Among the skeletons you spot some that used to belong to children, but none to infants. Maybe the young shells are too difficult a sight for the locals. Maybe the shells are too weak to work or too dumb to listen to orders. The locals keep their distance both from you and the undead workers. I guess one of them sighs and tells you to wait where you're standing. After a few minutes, if a group of local approaches a more neglected turf house and starts to empty it, they take out old crates, rags, casks and bricks, then leave them by the outer wall, at least for now. "'Tis an old shed," explains the guard. "The air won't bother anyone. We'll be ready before you need it." Okay. We're going to continue on, and we're going to go to the peat fields. As you ride past the fields, one of the local farmers enters the road, gesturing for you to stop. He's holding a rusty sickle and carries a basket on his back filled with various weeds and a sharpened club. His patched, worn tunic is neglected but fitting for a farmer. The lean years left his face skinny and teeth crooked, but his sad eyes hold heartwarming kindness. "Hi there, Warden," he has a thick local accent. "I've been wondering just now. There's a small matter, you see. Do you know how to read?" "I don't, I'm afraid." "I see," he gives you a sad smile. "But still, you have a horse, I mean?" He raises his eyes, as if to make it clear he's aware that you're sitting in a saddle. "It is, you ride places. Give me a few moments." Without waiting for your response, he runs to the village and returns to you with a small sack in his hands. "How about you take it to someone smart?" He unwraps a package and reveals a large wax tablet made of bone. "'Tis a letter from someone I care about, but I'm not sure what it says. I'll give you a coin once you read it to me." You take the tablet from his open palm. It's fancy, unlike the wooden ones. On its back you find an engraving portraying a large furry beast. "Made from a troll's hip," the farmer says proudly. "It's a pretty tablet." He puts his hands on his sides, his smile filled with pride. "I did it myself, with cold nights and a little iron. Takes thinking to keep your hands busy." "Why do you need my help?" He frowns as if the answer is obvious. No merchants come here these days, and no missionaries, and we don't need to read around here. "Do you have a priest in the village?" He looks at the gate as if he just realized you're right. "I asked him," his tone is cold, "but he was no help. Said the letters are blurry. They look fine to me." "Fine, I'll see you soon." He waves to you and steps away, clearing the path. "I'll wait for you with the coin I promised." Alright. Talk about Asterion. Is he your client, or do you share a goal? He crosses his arm, making his creepers hit his amulets. "Never had a witch or warlock at home? It is wrong for me to speak for others. I'll take my pyre a lot for shame and doubt, and I need to be trusted. People claim that you and your tribe were planning something big. Do you deny that?" He rolls his eyes, shrugging his arms and showing his empty palms, yet the nervous twitches of the creepers add little to his innocent demeanour. "He and I traded a few times, but I didn't bid with him or offer him mint and stew. He said he may have a job for me in the woods, and I told him I don't need his bones anymore." When asked what he did need, Thyras purses his lips. "I want things to change, 'tis all. I wake up to awoken shells in the fogs and Gloucester's robbers threatening my family. All I want for this cursed land to be normal. His yawn comes out of nowhere, but you then notice his dropped shoulders and heavy eyelids. And yep, that warden told me he's going to take care of it. He stretches, yawning subtly. Let's say I were to help your people with the bandits and got rid of the undead. Would you return the favour? I raise my chin. Did you choose to move this field, or were you forced to do so? He reaches towards his chest, rubbing a small tusk nervously. One sus surely likes to ask questions while the other's got work to do. His voice is colder than soil. Are you telling me you're wardening the bogs because you wanted to do so? You refuse to accept the new order of things, these necromantic practices? He sits down on the bench. Do I care who made me leave the walls? Oryntius didn't want me there, but I didn't want to stay. To stop him now, you'd need a band, and I'll tear off your head sooner than bring a threat to my tribe. You reach towards your blade, but the creepers remain idle. You're stepping into a treant's branch. Seeing your frown, he continues. The grass gets tighter the more you move, you see. Forget it. He waves it off. Why do you care about any of that? Let my people choose their path. Your tribe's becoming an outcast. Soon no merchants will want to trade with the necromancers. You speak as if it's a matter of the future, but my tribe accepts the risk. I can't care less. All I want is my tribe's safety, but this means not a thing to Oryntius. He reaches for the broken hourglass in his ear. What's your plan to get to him? I want to learn what pushes him to do all this. He must have his reasons. He freezes, as if he barely understands what you mean. Ah, this may be a good first step, but then he needs some persuading, and it won't be as easy as you think. He gives you a warm look, then stands up slowly and looks at the clouds. All I can do is find a way to let you into his house. And you'll have but one chance if you can convince me that you're to be trusted. Okay. Do I have anything that could convince you? He licks his lips, but then looks away. I'd rather not. Return to this later. Would you return the favour if I got rid of the undead? He spares you a yellow grin. 'Tis all you say. Yep, save the north or scrap it for all I care about. And I'll follow you into a fog. Okay. Let's continue onwards then. What time is it? Getting late. I want to head down, get that fish. So it's 4 hours. We have 8 hours. Giving me enough time. Let's see if the fish trap any luck. Nope, still empty. Okay. Surprised we got all the way down here. Okay. 1:30 and could go have a look at the Elder's Cave. Yeah, we should have enough time for that. Just. Can I enter the cavern? No. Okay. Alright, let's just go back to Howler's Dell then. You approach the opening of the gate, then swiftly dismount. A guard approaches you, ready to take your mount to a stable. Hello stranger, what news do you bring? We gossip for a bit. Even though Howler's Dell is a large village, the life here is slow. The curious locals gather around to take part in your conversation. Recently, during the last hunting trip, one of the hunters was badly injured. The spells won't help, she may even lose an arm. The Stable Master shows up as soon as you step away from Sodal. His lips are thinned and he gives a longing glance towards the bridge. I'm broke. He scowls at you but points at an empty bucket and steps away. I fill the trough with water and creek and make sure Soda was comfortable. You're wandering through the village. 3 drunken youngsters are having something between a conversation and a mumbling exchange of jokes. A couple is holding hands as they wish you a great day. Go to the main square. It's getting dark and the inn is loud and crowded. The innkeeper lights up the rush lights and the workers drink. The guards are preparing for the night watch. If it wasn't for the presence of the creek and the uncanny lack of beggars, this place would feel like Hovlaven's marketplace. One of the tables is occupied by a dozen or so kids. None of them looks older than 12, and the youngest one, too dirty to resemble evil, a boy or a girl, is about 6. They are surrounded by their playthings, a Mothlan on wheels, an elegant wooden sword, and a painted board covered with rocks. But they are bored and tired. Even though you only get a glimpse of them, the oldest girl notices your attention. She springs up to her feet and approaches you with a few skips. She's already pretty tall, dressed in a worn, subdued tunic, so long that it looks like a sack. Be rude to ignore her. Smile and ask what she needs. She puts her hands together and puts on a grimace of a playful misery. Master Roadwarden, hearing such an antiquated salutation makes it difficult for you to hide your smirk. We here, she points at her group, bored, oh so bored. She puts the back of her hand on her forehead, letting out a deep sigh. Please, master, tell us a story or two that each traveller sees with different eyes. The last few words sound like an echo of an old tale. Fine, make room for me at the table. The children gather around and ask you for a minute for them to gather their friends and siblings. After a bit of chaos, there's 20 young souls sitting closely to one another on benches, stalls, and on the ground. The red-haired twins brought a blanket to lay down on. You have a shorter side to the table to yourself. The older kids understand your lost look in an instant. They start to hush each other, which causes an even greater amount of noise. But in the end, there are dozens of eyes staring at you with a mixture of boredom and anticipation. Do I spice things up with lies or hit them with a church story? Don't want to tell them about Hovlaven. Should be fine as is. As you tell the tale, the children are more confused than excited. They don't interrupt you, but also look at each other, seeking answers. The sacred heroes, rivers, and hourglasses convey little. Once you finish, you notice the nearby adults. Their looks are far from pleased. With stiff kindness, the kids thank you for your tale. I nod to them and walk away silently. Ooh, right, the parents. Hehehe. Ask the guard and look to the mirror. Mia's currently busy. Sit down and wait for a while. When she joins you, she apologizes. Welcome back to the village. You wanted to see me. Can you read this? Pretty. She taps on the carving on the back. You sure you don't want to leave it with Akokios for a few bones? She glances at the letters, then puts the tablet on the table. Just some farewell letter written to Valens. His husband says he couldn't stand this nightmarish village and that he'll meet someone else during his hunting trip. It ends with, "We will start a new family. Goodbye." No signature. I have no news to share. Thank you for your time. Alright, sleep. Well, we can't rent a place, so sleep on the floor. Like most people, you wake in the middle of almost every night. Before your second sleep comes, you spend an hour or two taking care of your belongings, shell and soul. Some people spend this time with their friends, families, or lovers, but your routine is different. If you don't have to take care of essential tasks, I check on Sodal. It's a good time to brush it and make sure it has everything it needs. We care about our horse. It's warm here, but the mufflin skin allows your back to rest a bit. You wake a couple of times during the night. The smell of the cooked stew fuels your hunger, and the staff returns from the room once every hour or so to stir the pot. You wake early, but leave the building to check up on Sodal and give it water from the creek. The innkeeper is sitting near the door from time to time, carrying out another bowl with either stew or gruel. Basis is nowhere to be seen. Right, so inventory. Eat a food ration. Here we go. Right, to the map. And we should be able to, at the very least, stop off there. Oh, leave the square, travel. There we go. Can't get here while the creepers block the way. Okay. So until I have a reason or the ability to pass through there, no real point. Okay, let's check off to the side then, and to fill in this map as much as possible. You cross a clean, shallow yet wide creek that runs south, then follow the uphill path squeezed between the hills and the lush forest. Spend a good couple of minutes passing a haunting meadow filled with dozens, maybe hundreds, cut down trees now overgrown by bushes and grass. Can't think of another time when you've seen such a clearing of such size. Locals are surely ambitious. I wonder how far they can push it. Once the clearing ends and turns into a corridor of trees and hills, you stop your horse. There's a monster in the middle of the road, reaching out with its long arms to grab and devour fruits and leaves from tree crowns, chewing them without haste. Standing on its hind legs and leaning on a thick tail. As there isn't much hair on its grey skin, you see its impressive muscles. The beast is 3 times the size of a human, and while each move makes it slow, its long claws and the ease with which it breaks one of the branches make you think that a single swing would be enough to pierce your jacket, or just as likely that it would simply break your bones and send you into the air. Like most people, you know quite a bit about pebblers. Once they get used to an unfenced farm or forest garden, getting rid of them can be a huge issue. There aren't many blades able to cut through their thick skin and bones, and a single mistake may put them into a furious charge, encouraging them to look for human dwellings, which they can tear down in revenge. The beast doesn't give you as much as a glance, but also doesn't move away. The best you can hope for is that it's going to walk away on its own, maybe tomorrow, maybe later. Facing it in a fight would end up badly. Return to the crossroads. Okay, let's look at the eastern signpost. Long plank attached with rusted gnomes, blah blah blah. Single picture painted with great care. A city-like gate with a watchtower to its left and right, and a couple of small conifers growing beside and partially behind the towers. Okay. Let's head east. The corridor of leaves and grey rocks leads you to a gate, large enough for a wagon, held together by a wooden bar. The planks and rocks are covered with claw marks left by various monsters, but they weren't able to damage the wall as much as the passage of time and piercing rains. A large man, covered in shadows, is observing you from the roof tower. His voice is hoarse, distrustful. "You lost? I don't know your mug." I'm Buta, the new Roadwarden, and you're the gatekeeper, I assume? Yeah, I'm good with distance. I don't want to intimidate him, or attempt to. Well, yeah, just on duty, and armed, so you know. He lifts a loaded crossbow and sticks it out of the shadows. But I'm no enemy of yours. He leaves the tower. He's wearing a black gambeson, so ragged it can't be fastened anymore. Tells a story of claws, thorns, and improvised repairs. The hole in the man's hemp pants reveals a scraped knee. It's hard to tell his age through his exhausted, sleepy eyes, a short, unkempt beard, and a bandage horizontally covering his ears and the spot that used to be his nose. There's clotted blood in his brown hair and mud on his clothes and brown neck. Despite all this, he's a huge shell, with wide shoulders and thick legs. He straightens up. So, a warden, you new to the job? Pretty new. You chose a shit place then. This gate here? He kicks a brick with his heel. It's older than me. All's there? He points behind him with his weapon. Wilds and beasts. My tribe built this place to keep them away from us, and us from them. He scratches the bandage on his cheek. Name's Quintus, from Old Pagos. Been there? Not yet. So you don't know. It's west from here, behind the crossroads. But it's touched by sickness. We used to send one soul here every morning, and escort them back before nightfall. But some days ago, no one came for me. Spent a night here, sneaking wolf shits. Almost got me. He picks up an almost empty water skin from behind the parapet and takes a sip. Went home by myself only to learn about the sick. I've been here ever since. What do you know about the plague? Not much. It kills. That's all there is to know. My tribe's smart, locking the gate. The right gave them strength. Okay, I want to double check. The right is... Glossary? Right in the sacred tablets. Okay, so let's see. Monotheistic. Okay, that's what that is. It's a monotheistic, an old monotheistic religion that focuses on heroes, the winged hourglass, the vanity and triviality of life. The United Church. It's just a big centre of claims to reflect the image of Ada, the greatest leader of the North. Right, okay. So the right is a proto-religion to the United Church. But the church itself uses that religion to press its own power. I see. Shouldn't you look for a real shelter? He trembles, his eyes widen. Someone has got to stay at the gate. The villagers in the east don't know about the illness. They may try crossing the woods. At the closed gate while fleeing some wolves and stuff. He rubs his dirty neck. And I also can't leave the gate open. It's like a dam for monsters. If all I can do is choose the way I die, this is it, with my duty fulfilled. Surprised you've survived this long. Yeah, well, I can call it surviving. I call it potions. He chuckles, makes him wince in pain. He puts his hand on his stomach and leans away. Beast took me for easy prey, but the good monks from the mountains equipped our guards well. They're helping our ill, but used to brew all sorts of the stuff. His hands moved to an earthenware bottle by its belt. It's been nighttime in one of the villages. He adjusts his jacket by shaking his shoulders, making the buckle jingle. I'm not a beggar, and the villages in the north won't help me for more than a day or two. I've got no dragon bones, just this little ibex. He pats his crossbow. Old Pagos is by itself. We don't look for kind folks. He thinks for a moment. I'll just wait. I'll get back home once the plague's done. Or before winter. We look at his disfigured face. He may be a bit too proud, but he knows more about the locals than I do. He glances at Sodal. You understand, I'm sure. Warden's a soul of duty. About the gate. Here, see? He points at the long twisted rope that hangs from an iron hook. I could climb down and remove the beam on the other side. You take down yours. You need at least 3 hours to get through the woods. He touches his stomach and takes a deep breath. But I need you to give me aught first. What do you want? I'm hungry. Bring me some rations, maybe. Dried apples. Maybe. Sizes you up. 5 meals, then I'll help you with the gate. Sure, I'll bring you some food. Thanks. His smile may be disfigured by his wounds, but as warm as his voice. I'll take any help I can get. I've heard about some bandits. Are they bothering you? He scratches the bandage on his cheek. Only know there's one band somewhere, but not around here. Never saw them. Are you afraid of Glaucia? He straightens up and gives you a long look. Don't know who you're talking about. Okay. Mysterian? That's nice, but he hasn't been here in many days. You sure he's not dead? After you admit that he's very much, maybe, he puts a hand on his waist. Well, better get ready to slip open every dragon belly in the wilds. Did he often travel through the woods? Sure, though on a different mount. He had a saurian, 4 ibexes long, 2 ibexes tall. Moves on 4 legs and jumps high and far, dark green like rotting leaves. That one time, I was taking a piss in the shrubs and Asterion made the beast run up the rock face and it jumped on that. He points at the hill. And like that, they ran above the wall and landed on the other side, just like that. He snaps his fingers. His voice and eyes gain new vigor. The saurian was large and green? I mean, not everywhere. He has red scales here and on the tail and shoulders, I think. I don't know what to call it. You ask him for a bit about Asterion, but he has little to add. There used to be 6 of us, keepers. I saw him every now and then, but not that often. What's it like in old Pagos? He opens his mouth, giving you a puzzling look, then lets out a weak chuckle. What am I to say? We've got rocks, he taps the wall. We make houses, bowls, tools. We sell them too. Grow oats and broad beans. Ibexes give us wool and skins for monks. What do you call it? The one you write on? He moves on when you mention parchment. Yeah, it's a good place. Beautiful. Old. Hill, that's what Pagos means. Old hill. When you bring up the monastery, his eyes get brighter. Good people. They came here on a mission, teaching us Wright's book. My grandparents were pagans, you know, but we now follow the river of truth. Keep to ourselves, but help others when they need us. Okay, so what's the river of truth? Orders of truth? I think it might be the Order of Truth and not the 3 rivers. Yeah, okay. What can you tell me about the road behind the gate? Oh, not much. His chuckle turns into a cough. Leads through the lowlands, mostly woods and some ponds. Dark and lethal. Mentions tales of ghosts, dragons, fogs, and blood mages, but whenever you ask about any creature in particular, his response is vague and brief. The tribes abandoned this path ever since the war. The trade has been slow, people refuse to patrol it, and the plants are getting taller, but for at least a few more seasons, it's still a shortcut. It's good that you have a mount. If aught chases you, always stay close to the paths and ride as fast as you can. No one uses the road, why are you here? He scowls at you. Not no one. It's where people hunt for monsters. Every few days I have to open it for reasons. Okay. Well, let's continue north then. I don't have much in the way of food, do I? No. I don't want to spend a ration getting into the marshes just yet. Just for a single coin. You leave the wetlands behind. The pebbled road runs through the hillside with tall grasses and rock faces above you, and dark, lush forests below. Chunks of this path were shaped by human tools, who knows how many centuries ago. To widen it, the builders dug through the uneven boulders and used rocks and logs to fill up the cavities with thousands of rocks, each one smaller than your fist. While you have a good view of what's happening between the trees on your right, the bushes and shrubs grow so densely between them that you can't imagine entering these woods on your own. Farther south, there are plumes of smoke. Must be coming from white marshes. At the top of the hill, you reach a stone wall. It's a quiet place with no smoke coming from behind it. You look inside and see the glimpses of a peaceful ruin, while the main road is beaten and easy for hooves to trod. A destroyed gate and the remains of the front yard have almost been reclaimed by the short grasses. You seek any suspicious movement, but the place seems to be free of inhabitants larger than a falcon. The air is fresh and the wind shakes the tree crowns gently. The hamlet could be a hunter's shelter, a military outpost, or a storehouse for traders, but you spot no fresh human trails. The damaged door and gate are years old, soggy and mouldy, judging by the squirrels and birds and animal feces you see in the grass. This place is but a part of the wilderness. The roof collapsed only a few years back, turning into food for mushrooms. The outer wall looks generations old, but it used to be maintained. Some of its materials came from different times and eras. Okay, let's go behind the building. The chaos sparks right after you approach the tree stump. The dusk fox's growl sounds like a mix of an obnoxious bird and an infant. One of the animals, standing only a few feet away from you, is jumping and showcasing its tiny sharp teeth and raccoon-like black mask on its little head. The animal, with its thick brownish grey fur, seems more stout than any red fox. The second loud creature jumps onto the table made of a halved trunk. Unlike the first one, it has brighter golden fur. It bends one of its forelegs, observing you with dark eyes. Not furious nor scared, rather sad and protective. Its growls turn into a miserable whine. The beasts are not even waist high, but their numbers may be an issue. There's yet another sound coming from behind you, and even more from the bushes nearby. Okay, dusk foxes are... what are they? Foxes and such. Villagers, foxes, bloody blah blah blah, still the villagers. Okay, they're not seen as a threat to a group of armed hunters. Shouldn't be too hard to dodge their attack. I'll keep myself safe and take a better look at the situation. Kick one of them as quickly as I can. Need to block their charge. No, let's go with our fighter option. Take a quick glance and invade the creature in front of you as it tries to bite your leg. Then you take a wide swing to square away the third large creature. It was standing right behind you, and while loud, it's lumbering on its paws. The noises from the bushes belong to little pups, most likely harmless, though they are doing their best to imitate their guardians. Let's see. I need to block their charge, raise my hands and prepare myself to strike back. Yeah, I'll go with that. You step back as the fox in front of you jumps at your chest. You hit it with a precise kick, sending it into the air. It lands on all fours. Before you decide to run after it, the golden creature catches your forearm with its teeth. Unable to pierce it, Its weight makes you lose focus, giving enough time to the third opponent to reach you. Still, you do manage to avoid its bite, scaring it away as you swing your leg. The animal moves away in a panic. The dust foxes spread. 2 pups keep their distance, piercing your ears with their yelps. Your protectors triumphantly growl at you, warning you to withdraw. I want to get rid of them, because if I can get the pelts, then I can sell them for money. You reach for your axe as the beasts move to their new positions. The pups stay far behind, relying on their protectors. The weakest duck fox is near the bare tree, hoping to repeat its previous attack. The golden one remains in the corner, but is now jumping from seat to seat, as well onto the tree stump and keeps growling at you. The last one, which seems to be the bravest, remains in constant movement, pretending to attack you, then moving back. I have to be faster than they are and trust my blade. Take the initiative, keep moving, cut wherever I get a chance. Need to use all my strength. I'll let them get close, ready to cut only a few times, but for good. I feel like if I go after one of them, the other 2 are going to attack me from behind, right? Let them get close. There's a risk of getting swarmed. I don't want to rely on lucky hits, although I do want to rely on my armor. Okay, I'm just gonna let them get close. Ooh. The brave fox is quick and nimble, so your precise, powerful swing misses, almost hitting your own leg. The beast grabs your armor and pulls, making you stumble. And before you regain your balance, teeth are already sinking into your leg. You shake the creature off only to get hit by the golden critter. Something bites your hand, and without looking at the beast, you kick it so harshly it doesn't get up for a good few breaths. You're heavily wounded, but also furious, and your anger makes the suffering beast back away. They see your raised blade and wait no more. The stronger 2 run for their pups, grab them by their necks, and keeping their distance, carry them through the hole in the wall. Not happy with that. Quick load. Okay, let's be aggressive. You dash forward, but not as quickly as the fox jumps away, using it as a shelter. The large brown mushroom, you try to reach it with your boot, but then feel the teeth tearing the armor on your forearm. The dust foxes spread. 2 pups keep their distance, piercing your ears with their yelps. Do I want to run for it? I guess so. Past the weaker fox and run towards your belongings, encouraging the beast to chase you all the way to the gate as they growl with determination. For now, they stay in the shelter, filled with pride. I need to get rid of these creatures. Search your bundles. The axe is enough. Looks safe here. With the axe in hand, you enter the hamlet. The dust foxes react right away, seeking new positions as they try to keep you in the front yard. The lumbering beast is running to your right, clinging to the walls, hoping to repeat its attack from behind. Golden one, blah blah blah, same thing again. Okay. Okay, I'm not faster than them. I'm going to get hit down if I wait for them to get close. Rely on the Gambison. The brave fox is quick and nimble. You try to keep it at a distance, aware that another fox is approaching you from the back slowly. But then you get hit by the golden critter, which is clinging to your armored shoulder with its claws and reaching for your neck. Your fine armour stops the pain completely, and as you raise your arm, the fox's jaw is almost at the edge of its teeth. But you're conscious enough to grab it and throw it away, making it hit the wall with an unpleasant thud. You maintain your cold blood and swing your weapon at the fox that wants to bite your leg. Tries to dodge, but not quickly enough. You land a hit, and the whining beast moves away, leaving a trail of blood behind it. The pain scares away the other two stronger foxes, and the third one is unwilling to attack you without assistance. You raise your blade, and they wait no longer. The stronger two run for their pups, grab them by the necks and, keeping their distance, carry them to a hole in the wall near the bare tree. They get through it with confident jumps. Before the lumbering one disappears into the wilderness, it gives the pack's shelter one last glance. Back to Sodal. I want to look around. What are you looking for? For example, gate. A lot of timber outside the building, but they were destroyed by time, with no effort put into sustaining them with tar or oil, now soggy and slowly consumed by worms and fungi. They are beyond restoration. Stump. Hard to say if these trees were cut to use their lumber at this very shelter or to carry them away. These stumps are already reclaimed by fungi and bugs. There's also one trunk that was split in half horizontally, now serving as a table. Table? One of the hamlet's corners seemingly served as an outside dining area, or maybe a spot to play games and rest. There's a table made from a trunk, stumps turned into seats, and even an old wooden cup. Now all these things are getting overtaken by bugs and fungi. The spot is not so overgrown by grasses. The beaten path leads in two directions, towards the bushes and the large tree stump, and towards the hamlet's entrance. Bushes? You start with the bushes growing in the front yard, not finding anything unusual about them, but you stop for longer at those growing just next to the rock face. The spot here smells with urine, and as you move the leaves away, you find a dark cave behind them. Can't say for sure what it hides, but you hear no water or draft. The wild plants are healthy. I grab my axe, gloves, and get to chopping. There isn't a convenient way to simply grab the plants and cut, as the wood is frustratingly resilient and the volume of leaves limits your movements. With no proper tools at your disposal, you take little steps, remove the twigs with your knife, then bend the branches to limit their flexibility, then slice, twist, and pull. It takes almost half an hour, but you finally reach a point where you can get through, while letting in enough light to take a good look. The cave gets shorter and deeper as it goes, getting too small for most humans after just a few feet. The entrance was used by someone as a hideout. There's a stool and trash inside, including a surprising amount of bones, and one thing that catches your eye, a bronze axe. The handle is eaten by rot, unpleasant to touch. You break off a part of it without even trying, then lift the rest of the weapon by its cold blade. It's free of decorations, with tiny notches on its sharp blade, but you don't doubt it's a fine piece of artisanship, though not a higher quality than your own axe. Still, a decent bronze can endure centuries. With some sharpening, it may serve you as a backup weapon. All you need to put it together is a set of tools. Maybe a trader would have some. Hey, add it to the inventory. Sodal is trying to nap, but it gets interrupted by a bird that tries to rest on top of the saddle. Molds are covering the dead trees and moist lumber, but as you look around you realise that the hamlet could be quite a treat for some brave foragers. You don't fully trust your judgment in this matter, but most of the large mushrooms growing here resemble those eaten by you at various points in your life. Worms also feast on some of them, but they remain in a fair shape. Into the ruined building. It's a simple chamber with no furniture that would explain its purpose. Fireplace is buried beneath the roof. You inspect the walls, made of hundreds of small rocks dressed with chisel. The trash is heavy from the moisture. You push it with your boot, what starts a commotion among grey disoriented bugs. Removing the rubble will take some effort, but for now it doesn't look like there's anything of value left behind. With enough wood, a group of builders could restore this hamlet in a few days. I could hang around for a bit to clean up this mess, but I'm so tired it will take me a long time. Nah, we'll step outside. And we'll leave for now. You'll squeeze between the hills and the forest. The only larger beast you spot is a single saurian basking on a boulder, lazily observing you from a safe distance. Your ears catch the howls coming from the north, long and loud. And as you keep an eye on the rock ledges, you almost miss the drastic shift in the landscape. The forest turns into a lake, and the few plants growing next to the road mostly bear fruit. The road is not as reliable here as it was in the hills. Part of it are a bit muddy, and the puddles disturb your your ride. Maybe the locals will maintain it before it gets swallowed by the lake. The deep, loud yowl of howlers are piercing your ears, concealing any other sound in the area. They're sitting on branches and in the tall grass, not really trying to hide. Their thick black and gold furs cover their entire shells, aside from the charcoal black faces with roundish flat noses and wide nostrils. The young members of the pack are about the size of your mount's head, but the large ones would be chest high if it wasn't for the fact that they walk on all fours. Their long tails are like an additional arm, helping them climb, hang from branches, or hold food while they eat. They aren't particularly muscular, but when they form their pink lips into the shape of a cup to release their howls, their mouths are so wide they could fit your entire arm inside. As you listen to the shouts, you reach for your head. You feel a weird itch, but somehow you can't scratch it. Elves are monkeys of strong limbs and tails, though still not as dangerous as apes. Instead of using weapons, they fill their territories with otherworldly calls that seem harmful to most creatures, including humans. Furs are often beautiful, they don't have impressive claws or teeth, and their meat is seen as unsavoury. Still, the Book of Rites churches mention a few grand battles over land between howlers and humans. Keeping my distance, I take a look behind the boulder. The whitish rawhide covers the grass like a blanket, surrounded by paw prints. Howlers don't wait for you to approach it. One of the larger ones jumps on the ground, leaning on its hands and challenging you with its gaze. It has rather blunt teeth. Monkeys may try to attack me, grab the rawhide and quickly flee. Too bad I have nothing to plug my ears with. You stretch out your legs, then dash ahead. At first the monkeys move away with a few unconvinced yells, but then those from above start to howl even deeper than before, and you feel as if your guts are starting to move, hitting against each other. You get dizzy, and soon the pain enters your skull, as you're getting hit by a smith's hammer, time and time again. Yet you manage to stay calm, focused on your goal. The larger creatures try to cut your path, but being on the ground, they can't keep up with your legs. Without stopping, you grab the rawhide, then carry on, waiting for a few heartbeats before you change direction rapidly, now getting closer to Sodal. The largest beast leaps from behind a tree and lands right next to you. Its hit flings you back, you crush into the ground and scrape against the beaten ground, pushing your jacket to its limits. Your side hurts, but you get back on your feet, still holding the blanket. Your mount snorts and walks away, ready to flee. Chase after it. By the time you reach the saddle, the beasts have already abandoned their pursuit, though they still shout angrily. Sodal is more than ready to flee. Its ears are held back, nostrils wrinkled. You wonder if it suffers from the howls. You ride away and take a few deep breaths, then inspect the rawhide. The wet, torn blanket is worth as much as bread crust. Still, it's not rotten. If the owner is found, they may recognize it. An old blanket. Very good. Alright. Continue onwards then. The lakeside is filled with chirping of cicadas and crickets, as well as the roaring of beasts from the northern hills. Farther down the road you see tall yellow grasses interwoven with flowers and bumblebees, while the peaceful water shines just as much as the wings of dragonflies. This road is often travelled, and the clatter of hooves carries far, thanks to the vast field of view. The creatures hiding in the meadows are unlikely to jump on an animal as large as Sodal. In the distance you see a palisade and a large building set on the side of a crosswalk. Once you get closer, you hear a conversation from behind a wall. Two men are arguing about if they really just heard a horse. There's no signpost nearby, better ask them for directions. Sodal carries you towards the open gate on its own, welcoming an opportunity to rest by pushing the air loudly through its nostrils. A nearby wooden pen won't offer much space for a horse, but it should be enough for grazing and a nap. As you dismount, two men get up from the front stairs. Their clean-shaven faces reveal that they're in their early 20s. First one is taller than you, broad-shouldered, and wears light brown pants and darker jacket, both of them made of leather. With an inviting smile, he gets up and moves to open the enclosure. His steps are heavy and slow, but every movement is marked with care, ensuring he won't knock anything down or anyone. The second man looks as different from his colleague as the sun from the moon. He's unusually short and wears a heavy cloak made of black fur, so large it could cover his entire shell. He opens the door of the building, hides his hand, and peeks into the room. Boggy, his voice is shrill and unconcerned. A messenger, come. Take off some of my bundles, let my horse rest. A hanging barrel sways in the wind, marking this place as an inn or a tavern. The building resembles a merchant's house of Lavan, whitewashed and with oiled, elegant wooden beams. The fragile walls are high enough to avoid floods and snow, but you have no doubt that a troll or even a pebbler could easily break through them. The palisade is short, has hardly any support, and has no walkway for crossbowmen, hardly enough for even a makeshift hamlet. Yet it's the open harbour that makes you uneasy. Aside from the fish, any creature, aquatic or not, could just walk into the yard undisturbed. The path is covered with paw prints and claw marks. Better to not leave Sodal out during the night. A black and white bird swoops into the water, then flaps its wings and takes off with a silver, twitching creature in its talons. The large man clears his throat. And what have we here, coming from afar, friend? Are there now horses and howlers? His voice is stentorian, close to a shout. You vaguely recognize his accent as one found at the city harbour. Let's try this kind of playful one. I laugh. Far, far away indeed. You can't see it from here. He puts his hand on his forehead and pretends to look out for something above the lake. But I do see well enough. The city hides in your voice a long way you had. You hear heavy footsteps. A woman shows up at the doorway and looks at you from the top of the stairs. She's even more towering and stout than her son, the man who just welcomed you. With a massive chest and pear-shaped face with a prominent chin, her movements are composed and confident. She may be older than 50, with a mixture of grey and dark blonde hair. She has only one arm, the left one, noticeably muscular, with a hand so large it would likely chop off Sodal's head with a single strike, crush yours like a berry. Through the slit of her robe, made of creamy worn fur, you spot her trunk-like legs. She runs her eyes over your blade, armour and mount. Her lips form into something of a smile, distorted by the scar that runs through her mouth. The tall guy looks a lot like her. He spreads his arms, forming a chain between you and her. Meet Foggy, friend. Ma, the rider has come to us from Overland, such a long way. His powerful voice turns timid and he keeps turning his head from left to right and back. I bet you're hungry, eh? The woman looks at him with amusement, then glances at your palfrey. If you're after food, I hope you know how to hunt. Land here is barren for us, but it's a feast for boars, squirrels, and sparrows. She vaguely stretches out her only hand. What brings you to Foggy Lake, love? Just stopping by? Her voice is hoarse, like that of a traveller who's spent too many autumn nights in cold tents. It carries a hint of motherly affection. I close the animal pen and head down towards the stairs. You won't find another shelter in this part of the Dragonwoods, especially not in creeks. She scratches her broad chin with sausage-like fingers. You drink? I make a single loud clap and rub my hands together. Wouldn't dare to insult your hospitality. Her brief, powerful laughter is enough to scare away birds from above the lake. Her mount lets out a fearful snort. You have to visit creeks, dear. They'll love you there. Come, share a story with me and a mug. Without waiting for your response, she walks inside. The tall man takes a breath. Go ahead, we'll take care of your horse. He encourages you with a gesture. And by that he means we won't do anything with it, adds the man in black fur. Whenever his screechy words follow the deep voices of his companions, he sounds like a brat. We won't be feeding or washing beasts that aren't going in a stew, but we'll keep an eye on it. They find new spots to rest. The side of the boat is still near the palisade. Go up the stairs. The narrow segmented window shutters let in a lot of light without letting the beasts inside. The air is humid but carries not a hint of putridity. The heels of Foggy's boots make her steps thunder even though the planks don't creak. Make yourself at home, she says without looking at you, heading to the trapdoor in the corner. I'll just grab a little something. Her ears catch the screeches of hunting birds and the wind that leaks in through the windows, but other than that, the room is quiet. Okay, and I think that's where I'm going to end off today's stream. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for more Ico. Then, I don't know, I'll do schedule next week, but we'll figure it out. Bye bye.